How would you like to supercharge your creativity and finally achieve that laser sharp focus you've always dreamed of? This isn't about a neat workspace. It's about intentionally crafting an environment that empowers your artistic flow. Let's explore how establishing your own sacred space can dramatically enhance your concentration and elevate the quality of your deep craft. When contemplating the importance of this, I was thinking about how throughout history, the concept of dedicated spaces has been pivotal in fostering groundbreaking artistic and intellectual work. These environments, whether monastic cells or artist studios, offer a sanctuary where creativity and thought can flourish without distraction. Many years ago, when my children were quite young, we set off on a 4-hour drive. We were heading away for the weekend for an extended family gathering. The first hour of that trip, they argued so much in the back seat it was out of control. We never pacified our children with devices. Instead, we encouraged them to take in the surroundings and engage in conversation, which we often did as a family on road trips. However, heading to family gatherings always led to the trip starting with heightened emotions about what would transpire. We were the black sheep of the family and lived a lifestyle that did not align for the most part with the beliefs of the rest of the family, who were all a part of a religion that we were no longer connected to. Now, it wasn't just our children who were feeling anxious, so were we, but they were unable to control their emotions and were unable to soothe themselves. So I declared on a whim that we were making an unplanned stop, and we would venture off the highway and head into the bush to visit a Buddhist temple. Often on our trips north, we wanted to stop there, but we were always on a tight timeline, and this was just one of those times where I decided the timeline didn't matter. It was more important that we grounded ourselves. The boys were intrigued by where we were going, especially since I said we were heading to a location where speaking was not allowed. As we walked into the grounds, we felt this profound sense of peace. We spent about an hour exploring and immersing ourselves in this beautiful environment. We did whisper as we moved about. Expecting complete silence of the boys was probably a little bit much, especially since they had so many questions about this magical location. We'd passed many times on our travels, but never ventured into until this day. Point is here that this was a place for meditation, mindfulness, and contemplation, designed to support that. And while we were late for our commitment, we arrived grounded and centered and more at peace in ourselves than if we had pushed through to meet the deadline. So what is the role of these monastic cells? Monastic cells have long been associated with profound intellectual and spiritual work. Monks and scholars sought solitude in these sparse environments to meditate, study, and write. The seclusion provided by monastic cells allowed for deep contemplation and the development of ideas that have significantly influenced philosophy, theology, and literature. Let's look at this from a historical context. Medieval Europe during the Middle Ages, monasteries were centres of learning and preservation of knowledge. Monks, through their transcriptions of manuscripts, played a crucial role in maintaining the intellectual heritage of the Western world. Buddhist monks also utilised dedicated spaces for meditation and spiritual study, contributing to the spread of Buddhist philosophy and cultural development. And so what is the significance of an artist studio? Artist studios serve as both physical and mental spaces where creativity can thrive. These dedicated environments are essential for artists to experiment, reflect, and produce work that pushes boundaries. So from a historical context, let's look at the Renaissance era, where artist studios became a cornerstone of creative expression. Figures like Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo used their studios to develop techniques and masterpieces that defined an era. 19th and 20th century movements, the studios of artists like Pablo Picasso, Jackson Pollock, and Frida Kahlo were crucial in the development of the modern art movements. These spaces allowed for innovation and evolution of new artistic languages. So what does all of this have to do with you and me? Now, I'm Marie-Nicole, and this is the A Life by Design podcast. And in today's episode, I really want to discuss unlocking focus and creating those sacred spaces for deep craft. So, what are the benefits of these spaces? Having established and run businesses for the last 25 plus years as a creative professional and supporting other people through that process, I think it's really important for us to understand the benefits of these spaces and places. What is it that makes it important for us to create this sacred space for ourselves? And it's not just for artistic expression in terms of making and designing craft. So, what are the benefits of these spaces and places? Well, first of all, focused environments provide a space that is controlled. It is an environment where distractions are minimized, allowing for intense focus and immersion in the task at hand. They are also symbolically significant. The physical separation from everyday life imbues these spaces with a sense of purpose and symbolism, often enhancing the creative and intellectual process. They also foster community and collaboration. Dedicated spaces foster a sense of community among like-minded individuals, encouraging collaboration and the exchange of ideas. They also have historical value. Numerous historical examples underscore the relationship between dedicated spaces and significant cultural and intellectual advancements. So how can we create that for ourselves in our modern day lives? Today, dedicated spaces continue to play a vital role in fostering creativity and intellectual pursuits, from writing retreats to innovation labs to modern equivalents of monastic cells, and artist studios provide environments conducive to focused work and groundbreaking ideas. Modern distractions make these sacred spaces more critical than ever for deep work, especially since we live in an age where distraction is so prominent in our everyday living experience. The historical link between dedicated spaces and groundbreaking artistic and intellectual work is evident across cultures and time periods. These environments offer the solitude and focus necessary for deep thinking and creative exploration. By understanding and embracing the importance of such spaces, we can continue to foster innovation and cultural growth in our own time. Creating space to foster your creative expression in whatever form that may take place is a worthwhile investment of energy in order to create and share your magic with the world. So let's look at creating a sacred space. What are the elements to consider? So what would you need to do to personalize your own sanctuary? So how do you identify what you need for a sacred space? And how do you implement those first steps and changes? First of all, I'd like you to think about the elements that make you feel at ease in an environment. Do you like to feel safe in terms of being able to see the door? Who's coming and going from the space? Are you easily alarmed if you are not able to see that? Do you prefer to be perched up high with a bird's eye view? I have my desk set up in front of a window that overlooks an expansive view across the ranges and a big sky. In my studio shed, I don't have that view, but we did buy a set of windows many years ago, which I was planning to install, so I could actually have that expansive outlook. And then I moved my workshop into a commercial space in a nearby town and had a beautiful expansive view over the main street instead. So those windows never did get installed. But maybe you feel like your best ideas come through when you're in an environment that feels like you're being physically held in it, with structural elements that make you feel like you're in a valley. Or maybe you thrive in a busy environment where you get to engage with lots of other people. Or do you operate best in your own little nook? This may change according to what you are engaging in, but think about this in terms of deep focus work. Where do you feel like your most effective deep focus work takes place? And try and create that for yourself in an environment that you have control over. Taking note of these elements that help you feel most focused and inspired can enable you to create a space that supports that. And if you don't have a space to create that in your own environment, finding a location that offers you that to engage in your deep work sessions could be very supportive too. So I myself have little nooks that I have created to foster that creative flow and deep work. And the other day out in my studio shed, I rearranged furniture so that I could set up a new space to record episodes, just to change the environment a little bit when I record my videos. And I did a video out there, but then a couple of days later, I decided that that was actually a really good spot for me to sit and just let my creative thoughts flow. It's a beautiful grandpa chair that I feel like I'm kind of nurtured in and snug, and I have it set up in a way that I can not only handwrite, but I can also have my computer nearby and type to plan out the video content that I wanted to create, which is what came through when I was writing out the notes for this video. And while I have this kind of nook that supports my creative expression and planning and flow, I don't necessarily sit in something like that to edit my videos. I do that at a desk. I like to have everything set up in a way that is ergonomic and allows me to sit there and do my edits and get through them efficiently. But the times for planning, I need an environment that allows me to just connect into my creativity and just let the ideas come through. My mission as a coach is to create space for clients to freely express their challenges, work through their limiting beliefs, which are holding them back from realizing their full potential, connecting to their inner essence and allowing that to be their outer expression. It's not always easy to do that in the presence of family, especially if their beliefs or their way of being are not in alignment with how we feel called to show up in the world. So understanding ourselves, who we are at an essence level, why we are not that cookie cutter copy of our family members as a part of our journey through life. We are all here to contribute our unique thread to the collective tapestry, and a part of my role is to offer space for people to connect with their truth and step into their power, to serve the collective with their unique gifts. If you feel like you could do with someone supporting you in this way, then reach out for a connection call. You'll find a link in the show notes. So let's look at some ways that you can actually prime your mind for deep work. Creating rituals of entry, establishing pre-craft routines, creating a consistent gateway to your space that signals focus to your brain. For me, that's things like lighting incense, playing music that supports focus. And for me personally, that's a sound journey, not something that I want to sing to, but something that sets the tone for focused work. Creating that digital detox is a practical way to sever the ties with the online noise before you actually sit down to begin your deep work. So shutting down your email apps, putting your phone on do not disturb if need be, or at least having it on silent, or maybe even in another room. Let's look at some mindfulness techniques that you can use to clear your mind and embrace the present moment of creation, starting with breathing and connecting to your inner essence by putting your left hand on your heart and your right hand on your belly or your womb space, which is the center of your creativity, breathing deeply down through your nose all the way to your root, scanning your body as you do, and then exhaling out of your mouth. Repeating that 3 times to bring your awareness into yourself, connecting back to your inner knowing and essence, as well as scanning for areas in your body where you may have trapped emotions, breathing into those areas to bring awareness to what needs to be released, even moving your body to help shift the stagnant energy and trapped emotions. Now, this could be through simple circular movements of your hips, creating a figure 8 motion, shaking tension out of your arms and shoulders, raising and dropping your shoulders where you feel tension or any sensation, finding gentle somatic ways to release that tension or move emotions through. If you find that you have a racing mind, then taking a moment to tune into and listen to a short sound journey to shut down the monkey mind activity, bringing focus to the objective at hand. Journaling out your fears and concerns, what may be holding you back in that moment, then asking yourself the alternative. What would it look like being embodied in that reality instead? Write it down. Let your inner knowing reveal to you what you need to do to move through those blocks that are holding you back. Now, these are just a few practices that may be supportive to get you started in focusing on your objective and letting go of distractions. Let's explore now the unseen benefits beyond productivity. Nurturing patience and resilience through ongoing engagement in your craft. This could be a craft in terms of handcrafting, but it could also be in terms of content creation, showcasing our offerings to a broader audience in the digital space. The more we practice any craft, the more we refine our skill. The visual storytelling, capturing footage that not only shares business offerings, but creates a visual experience while sharing business offerings. The more hectic our life becomes, the easier it can be to set aside, really put the energy into creating that kind of content. But the results always shows that the power of investing energy when you're sharing your content to support your income earning capacity, it is an important element in your ability to connect on a deeper level with your existing audience and reach potential customers. So enabling that creative flow and practice to be something that you engage in is a really important investment of time. I've had coaching conversations around this, having time to create or craft content in an ideal world is often the statement that's made. But what if instead of waiting for the ideal world to magically appear one day, you actually put the energy towards creating that ideal space that supports your creativity and productivity? Now, there's also that unexpected wellspring of innovative ideas that emerges from uninterrupted deep work. Creating space for creativity to flow and ideas to emerge is so valuable for living an inspired and fulfilling life. So setting aside time to focus on the creation of content based on ideas that have come through in daily life experiences, recording those ideas manually in a notebook, and then when it comes down to that deep work, referring back to those notes and expanding on them, creating frameworks for videos and episodes like this one. That's what I was doing in my little nook the other day. When I was sitting in my grandpa chair, I was holding space for myself to actually unpack the ideas and let them flourish. It's the same for intentional handcrafting sessions that take me out of my head and into my hands as a way of setting an intention to embody a quality as well as an opportunity to unlock those unexpected inspirations. Making this a ritual practice to support leaning into that expression of self that I desire to foster, rather than hoping that it'll just happen one day. Creating a talisman as a visual reminder of that intention is a powerful practice and serves in two ways, through the experience of handcrafting and then the visual reminder as you go about your days. Now, I have done this in the way of creating jewelry that actually acts as a talisman, and I set an intention as I create the jewelry. But I also do the same with feather talismans. I used to hold in-person gatherings where we would create a feather talisman which we could hang up either in a window or in the car, in a doorway, somewhere where we see it throughout our daily activities to remind us of that intention that we had set for something we want to embody. Now, if you're interested in this kind of thing, I'm actually planning to create a series of tutorials that will help you to set that intentional space and crafting session, as well as the techniques in creating the feather talisman. So let me know if that is something you're interested in, and I'll let you know when it's actually available. Another unseen benefit is fostering a deep connection with your creative self and purpose. Now, we are creative beings by nature. We are here to use our unique skills to serve the collective, which enables us to live with purpose rather than merely exist. It really doesn't take much to know what our natural abilities are in our Western culture and school system. We have been conditioned to believe that creative expression is a luxury rather than a necessity, something that should only be engaged in for recreational purposes rather than a serious income stream. Now, I would argue that suppressing our creative expression for the sake of only doing what we think needs to be done is actually what creates stress and dis-ease. When we engage in our unique version of our creative expression, we become radiant, and then that filters out and enhances the lives of others and all the people we interact with, in the same way that if we are suffering in the discomfort of suppressing our creative expression, the resentment and dissatisfaction has a ripple effect into those who come into contact with us. Which is why I want to encourage you here to consider the value in creating your own personal craft sanctuary. I'd like to invite you to leave a comment and share your sacred space tips, or let me know if this episode made you realize how you could benefit from creating a sacred space of your own. There is a video I published in my Artisanal Living playlist, which may be of interest to you too, called Your Craft, Your Voice, Sharing Authentic Work. It'll be the recommended video that pops up for those watching the YouTube version of this. However, if you're listening to the audio version, I'll also share a link to that in the show notes. So I hope this video has inspired you to set up and immerse yourself in a creative space for deep focus work, creating that life you desire through taking aligned action towards creating your life by design. And I look forward to connecting with you here again in the next episode.